right, welcome to If My People Bible reading. This is part 19, and this is the book of Genesis. And we just went through a rather 15-minute introduction to Genesis 1:1 to 1:2. Uh, Once again, we ask you to understand and think deeply, open your mind, and rightfully divide the word. Test us on everything. You go and look, and at you go take a shovel and you dig in the earth. You look outside and you see crustaceans and layers and upon tens of thousands of layers of all kinds of life that existed, and then life that existed with only in the water, only found in the water today. So we make the scientific conclusion that these things like shells and seashells and animal life in the very smallest form lived in the seas. Um, and then from there, land animals appeared, and then it goes through. There, there are tens of thousands of scientists that have left the faith of the Father because their ministers told them they were wrong. So they just became confused and just left. When all in fact, these people should be attending a congregation and should be believers. They should be, because if you understand what we're saying here, Lucifer, there was no time difference. Time was different. Things could exist without a sun or a moon. For we know that they will last forever and ever. We know that because the Father says that in Revelation 21. We know that there will be a earth type situation with supernatural beings, not human beings, because humans come from the earth, but beings transformed, just as Yeshua was the first. He was the first to be transformed and made supernatural, uh, no longer earthly type blood, but supernatural, and so will be. And so, if it happens in the end that way, as it says here, it was in that way in the beginning. So, this 6 days that we're about to explain here in Genesis 1:3 on is the sixth day that the modern pastors teach from their pulpits. It's just they have a severe problem of understanding what happened in Genesis 1:1 to 1:2. Big problem. And one big problem is they don't think about Lucifer, and they don't think about him being fallen, and they don't think about one third of all the angelic beings falling with him and going on his path. And they don't bring that up in church much. Although, as we mentioned over and over again, the Bible is full of more about talking about evil and how to stay away from evil, and all these things that are considered bad, than talking about Yeshua. It's right there in the Word, and it's very important. You got to understand that these errant preachers are going to be corrected big time one of these days, but not right now. They're getting away with it. They're the ones with the super big churches. They're the ones that gigantic corporations. They're the ones going in massive debt. You're paying for it through all these building projects and loans. No church on earth should be loaning and getting money from a pagan heathen world. Uh, and then, well, Jesus heard the word from the Lord the other day. How many ministers? I heard the word from the world. Oh, it almost gets like, you kidding me? Only a preacher? You got to be a preacher on a, but then you hear from the Lord. The rest of you are just a bunch of morons, and you got to sit in your little pews and listen to all this nonsense that's coming from them, and they'll say whatever it takes to keep the business going because they like their paychecks and they like their lifestyle living. Wow. This is why we are doing this. It's that important. All right, let's do it. Genesis 1:3. And Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Now, before that, there was a different kind of light, like in Revelation 21. It was different. But this is a light that is like a natural light built that you can see, you naturally understand in this world that we live in. As you see, when I'm looking out the window, I'm not seeing infrared in my eyes like bugs do. or ultraviolet, I see natural light. Now, the world to come, different story. Um, we comment here the spoken word of Elohim can actually make creation. Speaking the word. Can Hasatan do that? No. He can only manipulate and alternate it. And how do we know that? Well, that's what he's doing today. That's what scientists. Everything here is, oh, I don't listen to the Father. Pay attention to what you see on the news. We need to pay attention to the scientist. Well, okay, I was a scientist for 20 some odd years and I didn't do this. What is coming up is sorcery and witchcraft. It's not science. It's sorcery, witchcraft, pharmaceutical nonsense, putting non-natural things into your body. That's what it is. And everybody lines up like a bunch of ducks and sheep saying, "Oh, I will do this because I want to help the children." Verse 4 Elohim saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. He did this. Elohim called the light a day, or day, and the darkness he called night, or darkness. And there was evening, and there was morning, first day. There was a day that happened. So is there an earth without a day? Can there be a day without an earth? Well, he just said it was, didn't he? Okay. And Elohim said, "Let there be an expanse between the waters to separate water from water." How do we do that? Well, there's oceans, which, by the way, salty. And we'll explain that in some other, how the oceans became salty. Um, it kind of explains a lot for those who are into saving the earth today. They think mankind is going to save the earth. Verse 7 So Elohim made the expanse and separated the water under the expanse from the water above it. And it was so. And Elohim called the expanse a sky. Now we know that there's rain in the sky today in the form of rain. It's either rain and lightning on the earth somewhere 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the last hundreds or thousands of years anyway that we know of. And there was evening and there was morning, second day. Now, if that's 24 hours, we're fine with that. We are absolutely fine with it. Don't get upset, Mr. Ministers, Mr. Pastor. And Elohim said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. Okay, we're into science now. You go out there and look at that. You can see that and you can prove that. Verse 10 Elohim called the dry land, the dry ground, land. So do we. And gathered waters he called seas. And so do we. And Elohim saw that it was good. And then Elohim said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed bearing plants, and trees in the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to the various kind." And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, very important, and trees bearing fruit with seed in according to its kinds. So, and Elohim saw that it was good. Comment. So, what is that telling you that we don't want to happen? Well, we'll talk about that because that's what we're doing every day today, called GMOs, genetically modified organisms, organics, nonsense, playing with the DNA. Right there, he doesn't want apples and orange trees. He doesn't want grapefruit and lemon trees mixed together and they become grape lemons, lemon grapes. He doesn't want playing with DNA. Don't play with DNA. And we think that's important there because our pharmaceuticals today play with DNA and all kinds of animal stuff, and they're injecting it into your children and you. And they're saying it's a good thing. You need to have this shoved into your children. Really. Don't do it. Verse 13. And there was evening, there was morning, the third day. Now we're in the day three 24-hour days. No problem with that. Earth could have been around in a different form, and life could have been in a different form for hundreds of millions or billions of years. And who's in charge? Lucifer. Big thing to understand here. What would make Lucifer so mad is because Yahweh creates Adam and breathed into him the breath of life and gave him a ruach inside of him. Why would that upset Hasatan or Lucifer in those days? Obviously, somebody was in charge before man. And if they're going to lose that job and be turned over to Adam because Yahweh gave it to Adam to be in charge, he gave him, there's a new boss, there's a new sheriff in town. His name's Adam. So for you, hey, you who've been here working at the job factory, the pre-Earth for 100 million years, you're fired. You've been altering DNA. You've been creating all kinds of animals, raptorosaurs and man flesh, and gigantic animals and gigantic humanoids and gigantic this and or small this and small that, small small people, small things that don't have the breath of life in them, but they're Yahweh's creation. Yeah, you're fired. Now you know why he's been mad, and he's still mad today, and he's coming after us. Him and his minions. Verse 14. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark seasons. Comment Moed, meaning appointed days or holy days, Kadosh days of Yahweh. Back to the reading, in days and years. So this creation for X amount of time may not have a single star in it? Yeah. But now it does? Yeah. Could have been done in one day? Yeah. No problem. No problem. You don't have a problem, do you? Is it okay? Just open your mind and don't judge until you get to Revelation 22. And then have a shot at me all you want. It's okay. Verse 15, and let them be lights in the expanse of the sky to give light on the earth. And so it was so. Elohim made two great lights. The greater light to govern the day. We call that the sun. And the lesser light to govern the night. We call that the moon. And he also made the stars. No problem with that. Now, comment. Pagans use the moon as watch days. We use full biblical calendars as Yahweh intended. Well, since most of the people on earth are uh, no longer plant and do not need to follow this and live in cities, they're not looking up at the expanse of the sky every night. They're not looking at the beautiful star ranges. They're not looking at what's going on right above them because they can't see it. It's blinded out by all these night lights in the cities. So they don't really care about this, but it is important. It will be in the millennium. It's going to be very important because the sun and the moon will still exist until it's destroyed by fire, until it just consumes itself. And we have a new heaven, supernatural heaven, earth heaven, that Yahweh will bring down with his son to introduce it to us and those who are destined to go. And there will probably be a billions or billion, hundreds of millions that will go. And it seems like, well, that's everyone, isn't it? No. No, there's been a lot existed on this earth before Yahweh breathed life, his life, into them in the form of a ruach. So you are different than a cockroach. A cockroach is not just equal to you. All these things that have been created and made that altered DNA that were never designed and never wanted by Yahweh because they were altered like a snake uh, or a dinosaur or something terrible lizard that roamed the earth in gigantic proportions. Was that meant to be by Yahweh? I don't think so. And so all this stuff that was refusing to bow or refusing to believe and hear and obey is not going to heaven. Not everything's going to heaven. Okay? So it's kind of important there. As we go through this book of Genesis, this is really going to lay it out. Now that you've got Job, you've got it in your head, ask questions and seek the truth. See you next time.